going to begin with you, Ken. This is one of your more sort of overtly angrier films, I'd say. I mean, is that something that you'd agree with, that this film it's really got something to say?
Well, the film is sort of a friendship, but the friendship exists in a context, and it's about people who are, for one reason or another, are vulnerable and need our help. And I suppose it should concern you that we've built a society where people cannot be helped; they have to be punished. So yeah, if that's anger, well, maybe it's an anger we should all share, but you can't make a film. You can't work if you're in a state of rage. You have to work, with a cool eye, really, and I hope a warm heart.
And I mean, it feels incredibly relevant. I mean, obviously, with a nation where pockets of society are just being ignored. Do you think this is as worrying a time for working class Britons as it has been for a number of years?
I mean, where we shot the film, Byker was where I was born. So that was a working class environment. And the Byker today, where we shot the film, isn't like the Byker when I was a kid. I mean, people there are trying to sort of, make it work. But because of the way the system is, I think my personal feeling is that the working class have been split apart. Yeah. And they've been made to fight against each other. And I think it's time for people to realise we're all the same, basically. And these characters could be, they are ordinary people. They're your father or your grandfather or your daughter, and I think that's something that I feel proud that the film's saying. It's saying that these people are ordinary working class people who need help.
I think in general, yes, people are socially much worse off. I mean, if you go back to after the war when I was a kid, the prevailing idea was that you would work together for the common good, and things would get better. Now, after Thatcher and the years that have followed, it's not been about the common good, it's been about private greed. So that everybody's your competitor. You're out to get a better deal than the other person, screw them up. And the result is we've got mass unemployment, we've got 5.5 million people partly employed, we've got 0 hours contracts, agency work, and there's a report out today that shows this idea of self-employment is another con trick to get people off the unemployment register. The self-employed, in inverted commas, are earning less, most of them are earning less than the minimum wage. So they're living in poverty, calling themselves self-employed, but actually they're struggling and they're not making a living. So it's a government which is imposing an economic system. Suits big business because labour's cheap. Doesn't suit the interests of working class people because they need to cooperate, to plan, to make life better.
And do you think that, because I mean, after I finished university, I tried to sign on twice, and both times I gave up before I actually got to the point where I received any money because it was such an arduous experience. Yes, I mean, do you think it is the case that they are making it deliberately difficult to put people off?
Yes, of course they are. It is. We know that because to take assessments, for example, to see if you're fit for work, they know that if people appeal against an assessment that says they are fit to work when they're plainly ill, most people will win the appeal. But they're telling people they're not fit for work in the hope that most people won't have the courage or the strength or the will to fight. They know they know that they are telling people to work when they're not fit.
I mean, when I've done it in the late 70s, early 80s, you signed on if you were sick and you got help paid until you were going back to work. And most people go, all right, I'm ready to go back to work now. So it was a shock to me to find out what the system was like. It really was, And
obviously, sort of establishing this film's got so much to say. It must have been great to, obviously, winning the Palme d'Or and playing out in Cannes. And that kind of glitz and glamour sort of contrasts so much with the situation the characters are in. That must have been an incredible place to show this movie.
Well, it was funny. I mean, Cannes is many things. People talk about films, it's a serious place for films, but there's also the yachts in the harbour, there's the parading up and down the Croisette. So there is a comedy in that, in the juxtaposition of the film and the location. But what it does mean is that the jury at Cannes, which is the biggest film festival in the world, said this film's okay. So it makes it very hard for right-wing politicians, for the right-wing press to ignore it. you know, because
It's got the power behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they have to take it. They have to say, well, okay, we'll have to take it seriously. Not that the government would ever change its mind. I mean, they're ideologically committed, but for all fair-minded people, they'd say, well, maybe there's something in this.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean to make you blush here, Dave, but I was just wondering, obviously, what was it about Dave that you felt was perfect for the role of Daniel Blake? Because, I mean, which he doesn't come into this with too much experience in cinema.
It was his hair, really. It was it. We talked about wearing a hairpiece, and he said, no, I'm having none of it. Really.
I had a lovely load of ginger hair when I came for the audition, and he said, no, it's clashing. It's clashing with the lighting, so you have to shave it off.
No, well, he's a good. I won't embarrass him, but he's a good lad, and he's he just knew it. And when we did the auditions, there was something very truthful in how he responded, and I just believe in him. And he touches audiences, you know, they go with him, and that's what you want. And there's a twinkle in his eye.
And that $5 I gave you.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
No
Much appreciated.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey, you guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yes.
Nice.
Hey!